I'm having to completely change my running back prospect model, and it's because of one man and one man alone. Kyren Williams came out, and I thought this man had no shot of turning into a star at the NFL level. I mean, yeah, he can be a role player. Yeah, he can be a decent pass catcher, but could he be a three-down workhorse running back with success? I thought he couldn't. I didn't draft this guy in Dynasty, and obviously I am now paying the price for so. So I want to dive in deep on what we got wrong with Kyren Williams, how we can avoid this going forward, and at the same time, if you should be buying or selling Kyren Williams now that he has exponentially increased in Dynasty value. Now, the first thing I want to outline is how his NFL career has gone up until this point. So as a rookie, what's surprising is the man came out, did absolutely nothing, right? I mean, typically you'd expect that if you're on a depth chart with Cam Akers, Darrell Henderson, that if you're going to be the next NFL star, yeah, you should be able to find some success. But no, I mean, that doesn't happen at all. He averages 3.5 carries per game. Sean McVay decides that Kyren Williams isn't someone as a rookie that needs to get involved. Then everything changes this past season. Obviously, the team has a falling out with Cam Akers. He gets shipped over to Minnesota. And Kyren Williams, in 12 games, has almost 1,200 rushing yards. He totals well over 100 yards per game, including receiving. And at the same time, he averages 19 carries per game, and he has 12 rushing touchdowns in 12 total games. Kyren Williams was the true league-winning running back this year. If you decided to draft in the last round of underdog best ball drafts, you printed money. If you stuck him on your tax squad in Dynasty, you printed money. And going back to his prospect profile, the reason I thought he couldn't have success is because he was a slow, small running back coming out of school. And we looked at all our data that we have had and accumulated since 2014. And we've seen, yeah, there are going to be small running backs that find success. I mean, you can see some of the small running backs based off their BMIs with success. Kenyon Drake, James Cook, Devon Achane, hell, even Christian McCaffrey, it was on this list at one point. Melvin Gordon, he is extremely tall, not a small running back. But then you had Devin Coleman, Rachaad White. So these running backs that have been able to find success with a smaller BMI overall. But what did all these guys have in common? They were all speedsters. I mean, Rachaad White, 4.48. You had Melvin Gordon, 4.52. Christian McCaffrey, 4.48. Devon Achane, 4.32. James Cook, 4.42. Kenyon Drake, 4.45. Not only were they all speedsters, but they were all phenomenal receiving backs, and the majority of them saw relatively decent NFL draft capital, with CMC being a top 10 pick, with Kenyon Drake, James Cook, Devon Achane, Melvin Gordon, Rachaad White, all going well within the top 100 picks of the NFL draft. So we have seen, yeah, there'll be small running backs that find success, but they need to check every single other box. They need to have draft capital, and at the same time, they need to be fast, and they need to be good receivers in college. While Kyren Williams is a good receiver in college, he was slow, and I mean, the man went at the very end of the NFL draft. He was near pick 200 overall, which obviously does not show any type of confidence from an NFL talent evaluator perspective. And then we go over to the other end of the spectrum. Yeah, I mean, you're going to find slow running backs that find success in fantasy. I mean, Kareem Hunt was slow in fantasy. I mean, you had, say, let's throw in maybe Zach Moss onto this list, James Conner, Josh Jacobs, now Devin Singletary. There were running backs that tested poorly at the NFL Combine that were decent in fantasy, but they all had one thing in common. They were all monsters. They were all massive. So yeah, you could be slow, but you got to be big. Or you can be small, but you got to be fast. We've never seen a small and slow running back find success. And if you just identified the players that were both small and slow since 2014 and you avoided them, you did pretty damn good. I mean, you had Storm Johnson, Wayne Gallman, Tajee Spears, TJ Yeldon, Matt Jones, Isaiah Spiller, and we can look at other guys like Ronald Jones that have been the perfect examples of these players that may be a little bit too hyped coming out of school. I mean, throw Kerryon Johnson on this list. It's how we avoided Ronald Jones today, and it's how we avoided Kerryon Johnson as well. But Kyren Williams was extremely slow at the NFL Combine with a 4.65, and Kyren Williams was very small at the same time with a BMI of 28.6, and he was almost near 200 overall in the NFL draft. So the man comes out of absolutely nowhere, and what I want to do is take a step back and say maybe we should be willing to look at a particular team in a different light. Because this isn't the first time that we have seen Sean McVay go out there and find one of these guys at the very end of the NFL draft that can step into his system, be the perfect fit, and find a ton of success regardless of what their collegiate profile looked like on paper. I mean, not only did you see in the 2022 NFL draft, Kyren Williams going behind Breece Hall, Kenneth Walker, James Cook, Rachaad White, Tyrion David-Price, Brian Robinson, Dameon Pierce, Samir White, Isaiah Spiller, Pierre Strong, Hassan Haskins, Tyler Algier, Snoop Conner, Jerome Ford, and finding success. But also, we just saw this season that Puka Nacua just went behind JSN, Quentin Johnson, Zay Flowers, Jordan Addison, Jonathan Mingo, Jaden Reed, Rashee Rice, Marvin Mims, Tank Dell, Jalen Hyatt, Cedric Tillman, Josh Downs, Michael Wilson, Trey Tucker, Darius Davis, Charlie Jones, Silas Scott, Justin Shortner, Dontavian Wiggs, and then you get Puka. Not only have you seen it with Puka, we can go over and look at Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp goes round 3 of the NFL draft and then goes and turns into the Triple Crown winner with Sean McVay. So we have seen Sean McVay have the ability to either A, identify talent at an extreme discount late in the NFL draft and be able to bring that talent onto his roster, and they're naturally able to step into a phenomenal role and have great success. Or B, maybe he's able to take players that are somewhat undervalued in the NFL draft, plug him into his system, and his system is so damn good that he can turn slightly to above average players into actual superstars. Now, I don't necessarily know what the answer is between the two, but what I do know is we have seen Sean McVay do this over and over again, and he is not quick to move on from the players that he finds and they have success. Look at Cooper Kupp. So now this brings us to, should you be buying or should you be selling a player in Dynasty? The best way that I think we can look at this will be the rankings over on flogfantasy.com. So if you go over to flogfantasy.com, you can see not only the community rankings, so that's how everybody who just uses the site values those players. We have our own algorithm to figure that out. But on top of that, you can look at the expert rankings, which is going to be all the experts on the site, the accumulative set of their rankings. And you can pull up my own rankings, right? I'm one of the experts on the site. And at the same time, we can cross-reference all those and try to identify, is he overvalued, undervalued, or where should we be looking at him in terms of my opinion? So if you're looking at the community rankings right now on flogfantasy.com, Kyren Williams currently is the 50th player overall. He is the RB7. He's directly behind Nico Collins, the 106, Devon Achane, and T. Higgins. And he's directly in front of Travis Etienne, Jared Goff, Rashee Rice, Tank Dell, Drake London, and the 107. So you essentially have Kyren Williams equaling a mid-first round pick in Dynasty Superflex rookie drafts. And if you were looking to sell Kyren Williams, you'd be pivoting off instead and getting someone like Travis Etienne or Rashee Rice. Now, going over to the expert rankings on flogfantasy.com, Kyren Williams is actually higher than 50 overall, and Kyren Williams is instead up at 38. Kyren Williams in the expert rankings is not behind Devon Achane, but instead he is in front of Devon Achane, and he is currently sitting behind Jalen Waddle, Sam Laporta, Jordan Love, Devonta Smith, the 106, and directly ahead of Justin Fields, Devon Achane, Brandon Ayuk, Travis Etienne, Jordan Addison. Now, I find myself somewhere in between the two sets, right? You have the expert rankings, which is the guys over at Fantasy Stock Exchange, the Fantasy Domain. I mean, you have Dynasty Land Football. You got a bunch of people over there, but nonetheless, those experts are going to be a little bit ahead of me on Kyren Williams currently, but I still am ahead of the community rankings on Kyren. So I personally would be labeling Kyren Williams as a hold. If you'd be looking at a mid first round rookie pick, I would be selling him if you can get an early first round rookie pick, and I'd be buying him if you could buy for a late first round rookie pick. Now, another thing you can do over on flogfantasy.com is go over to our trade calculator, put in Kyren Williams, and then you can see all the trades that have been recently made with Kyren. One trade that we can look at is going to be Kyren Williams, Davante Adams, a second and 2/3 for Tyjae Spears, a third, first, and second. So I would take that first round pick and say if it's a mid first, probably give me the, I don't know, mid first, it's going to be a hold. Tyjae Spears versus Davante Adams. I'm going to go with the Davante Adams side. So unless that's an early first, I'd probably take the Kyren Williams side there. The other trade that we'll be looking at, we're going to have Kyren Williams, Noah Fant, Drake London, Tommy DeVito in a first. So essentially just Kyren Williams, Drake London in a first versus Garrett Wilson, Brian Robinson, Aaron Rodgers, Jake Ferguson, and another first. So if I'm looking at this, give me Kyren Williams relatively easily over Brian Robinson. Give me Garrett Wilson relatively easily over Drake London. So going back to it, probably depends on where that 2024 first round pick is. We have another trade that's going to be a one quarterback format. That will be important to point out because you're sending Anthony Richardson, Kyren Williams for Khalil Herbert, Jalen Hurts, and 2 future picks. So yeah, I would rather sell out of Kyren Williams if it means we can get 2 future first round picks. If I can sell Kyren Williams for 2 firsts, I will be a seller at that price point. And then the last trade we're going to be looking at will be Kyren Williams, a bunch of garbage for essentially a 2021st round pick. So you can see over and over and over again, both from the trade finder on flogfantasy.com, plus the community rankings, the expert rankings, and my own rankings, that Kyren Williams is most likely equivalent to a mid first round pick. The current NFL draft class coming in really doesn't have a player that should threaten Kyren Williams and his overall workload in Los Angeles that should remain safe going into 2024. And if you're a contending team, you're probably buying for a first. If you're a rebuilding team, you're probably selling for a first. And I'm going to have to update my entire running back prospect model so we can hopefully have a chance at identifying the next Kyren Williams. But thank you again. And of course, if you want to check out any of those rankings on flogfantasy.com, go check out our trade calculator. Go check out our trade finder. It's all on flogfantasy.com. Promo code FLOG. Get 30% off any subscription. Plus, yours truly will break down your Dynasty Fantasy Football team in a podcast. But I think that's all I got for you. Really do appreciate you and really hope we get to see you out with a video tomorrow.